Hi everyone, today is August 24th, 2019, and this is the Duel Assessment, your podcast for Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. My name is Green Ranger, and this week is a bit of a transitional week. There's a lot of little things going on, but not a whole lot in terms of new cards. I think the biggest item this week is Konami's mention of Ranked Duels Revamp. We don't really know exactly what the revamp will be like, but we have some details about it. And additionally, talk of more gems. So that kind of frames how the podcast question of the week would go. Wondering if we are actually getting more gems from ranked duels. As I mentioned, we are getting one new card this week from the card trader. We'll talk about that. Some other cards. King of Games. I hit King of Games. We'll talk about the deck I used in the Duel School, and some esports to go over. Doug Dimmitt Duel has Crystal Beast deck, if you are interested in that. So check them out later, and some other little things going on here. So, in terms of my week, as I mentioned, I hit King of Games, and, it's with a deck that, everyone hates, I guess. That's a good way of putting it. But I did hit it with Six Samurai earlier in the week. We'll talk more about the deck later, but it was a situation where I wanted to hit King of Games with Six Samurais because the nerfs were coming. It could have been my last chance to do it. Honestly, it's more fun to hit King of Games with Six Samurai after the nerfs. Like, you come out with a cool new deck. Unfortunately, I don't have those skills. So what I did was I basically copied Kobayashi, who is the world champ of 2019. He just won the world championships. I pretty much copied his deck, and I didn't have 3 kids in, so I swapped out a card, but we'll talk more about that deck in the Duel School at the end of this episode. So check it out if you want to hear more about Six Samurai. If you're sick of it, then you can skip it, I guess. But other than that, I'm trying to maximize, my place, my situation in the game. So I'm not skill farming or anything, but I'm trying to play that tag duel event as much as I could to get all the gems possible. They did have that special cup unlocked, so that is like 60 gems each round, so a little over 100 there, I think. It's like 60, 40, I think. So try to maximize that, maximize the lottery rewards. I already got all the cards, so just doing that, and also at the same time leveling up Jaden/Yubel, that character, so I could get that to 45 in lieu of us receiving a new character next week. So we're going to level up a new character and get her rewards, but trying to finish off Jaden/Yubel. And yeah, so that is my week in the Duel world. Let's talk about esports. Duel Links Meta Weekly 86. This happened on August 20th. And again, another week in a row where Desperados and Vendreads are vying for the top spot in terms of representation. They were both brought a ton more than other decks. I think it's not like the other decks are not viable anymore. It's just the Vendreads are the new deck, the new hotness, and Desperados are ahead. They're ahead of the other old decks. First place, Insano, who I believe is Captain Insano. Master of Rights, 2 Vendreads. That's pretty much the skill you use. So whenever you're playing on PvP, you see Alexis. That's probably, it's not Cyber Angels anymore, but it's probably Vendreads. It is pretty much the same. They have a pretty defined core. They have 2 of each ritual monster. That being Revendread Slayer, Revendread Executor, Vendread Battlelord, and yeah, those 3 monsters, 2 of each. Typically, you have, some of the ritual helpers. This deck uses 2 Sonic Birds. I guess getting this spell is much more important than getting a monster, because they could get monsters easily from the graveyard or wherever. You have some assignment of Vendread monsters. So this deck runs 1 Revenant, 2 Hound Horde, and 1 Anima. The other card, Vendread Core, is in the side deck, so they could put it in whenever. 3 Revendread Origin, a really, really good ritual spell. It just allows rituals to be played in general. 3 Revendread Evolution, just to maximize your ritual spells. Not better than Origin. It sucks compared to Origin, but pretty good. And 3 Vendread Knights as a field spell to help do a bunch of things. So this is a pretty standard list for Vendreads. Of course, Master of Rites 2, pretty good protection for your ritual monsters as well, to prevent them from being affected or targeted. So, this is how you play Vendreads. This is the type of deck you want. You want to buy through that last mini box 3 times for your Revendread Origin. Second place, Scorpion 456, Master of Destiny Desperado. Again, this is a deck that has pretty much been defined. They have a really core set of monsters. You have 3 Desperado Barrel Dragon, 3 BM4 Blast Spider, 2 Dekoichi the Battle Enchanted Locomotive, 2 Cup of Vase, 1 Time Wizard, and this is in the Monster Flex zone. Temperance is in a lot of decks, Twin Barrels in a lot of decks. This deck runs 2 Twin Barrels and 1 Temperance. And really where you could play around with Desperado, like pure Desperado, there's no room for Cyber Darks, is the back row. So the back row here, 2 Cosmic Cyclone, 1 Floodgate, 3 Paleozoic Canadia. So that really depends. That's really what's different about each competitive Master of Destiny Desperado deck you see. Yeah, really, Cosmic Cyclone is a pretty good deal in that deck. It's a control deck, but they don't really have a way to control the back row. Twin Barrel could, but you're flipping a coin. I mean, you flip the coin, but you could destroy it. They could chain to it. So Cosmic Cyclone's a better bet, just to clear that back row and then do a bunch of things to blow up the board. Third place, Biscay BL Balanced Triamids. I don't have much to say about Triamids because the decks are pretty much the same. This one has 3 Triamid Master, 2 Triamid Hunter, 2 Triamid Dancer, 3 Triamid Cruiser, 2 King Golem, 2 Fortress, and then trap cards, 2 Floodgate, 2 Mirror Wall, 3 Paleozoic Canadia, 2 Triamid Pulse. I am seeing Mirror Wall in a lot of Triamid decks. They do a lot of stuff with like kind of winning battles by putting on the field spell. So you attack them in attack mode and then they put the field out, but then the Mirror Wall could help even more by reducing their monster by half. In third place, Luke Tyler, another balanced Triamid deck. This one's 22 cards, the last one was 23. And the same monster core, and this one runs an extra field spell, 3 Triamid King Golem, and fewer trap cards, 1 less Floodgate, 2 less Paleozoic Canadia, 3 Triamid Pulse. So you can kind of really play around with your balance math, and as long as you have enough cards for balance, I guess you can build a Triamid deck. That is Duel Links Meta Weekly 86. Let's move on to Damage Step 1. This is a new tournament. It's held every Friday. They're from the Duel Links Entertainment Discord. Yeah, that's their Twitch page as well, Duel Links Entertainment. So how this works, very interesting. They call it Damage Step 1, but there's 2 phases, 4-point battle rooms. So they have 4 rooms, basically split everyone up to 4 groups. And then they fight for 2 hours. They use 2 different decks. They play for 2 hours. Whoever gets the most points, top 16 of each group, move on to top 64. And then they move on to Phase 2. Phase 2, they take 1 of 2 submitted decks. 6-card side deck. You can use any character, and then best of 3. So 193 players participated yesterday. And let's go over the winners. Wild Man, Master of Destiny, Desperado. Again, this is, pretty much the same core. 3 Desperados, 3 BM4 Blast Sputters. This one has 3 locomotives, so more card draw. 1 Time Wizard, 1 Twin Barrel, 1 Temperance. 2 Cup of Ace, and then the back row Forbidden Chalice. 2 Dimensional Prison, 3 Dust Tornado. Dust Tornado is a card we see a lot as well. And the same function as Cosmic Cyclone. Second place, Raw, who competed in WCS 2019 for Germany. Master of Destiny, Desperado. Again, this one's a little different. It doesn't run Temperance, so it's kind of like your Karibo, your Sphere Karibo in your deck. That one is out. It does run a Fiend Comedian, so this is a very strong card to clear out your opponent's graveyard. Completely nullifies any graveyard strategy. They pretty much lose the game when you do this, but also has 2 Cosmic Cyclone, 2 Paleozoic, 2 Floodgate. 2 Paleozoic and 2 Floodgate's a very interesting thing. Typically, when people have 3 Paleozoic, they play all of them, and then they have like 1 Floodgate, but I guess this is pretty... there's a reason why you would run 2 of each. Second place, No Cyberstyle Crystron. This is very interesting. Cyberstyle used to be a deck where you would just use those proto-dragons for whatever material you want. But now the skill has been nerfed, and now the proto-cyber-dragons can't be tributed or used as material except for fusion summoning. So I'm not really sure how this works with Crystrons, which are a synchro deck. But in any event, this is a typical Crystron deck. You see all the Crystrons here. 2 Sulfafnir, 3 Smyger, 3 Citri, 2 Rosenix, 2 Ryan, 1 Parastortle, and 1 Quan. You got 3 Scrap Recyclers, 1 Crystron Entry, 3 Cosmic Cyclones. And then the extra deck, Quadrant Gandrix, Black Rose Dragon, Karakuri, Shogun, Burai, White Aura, Dolphin, Powered Insectron, Crystron Amatrix. And third place, Black Samurai, Balanced Triamids. Again, pretty much the same deck. This one's a little different, actually. It runs 2 Masters, so I guess he's more free to play. Most decks have 3 Triamid Masters. This one has 2, 3 Triamid Hunter, 2 Triamid Dancer. The field spells are the same, pretty much in the back row is pretty much the same. Paleozoic Canadia, Mirror Wall, Triamid Pulse. Alright, so those were the tournaments. Let's go over the tier list, Duel Links Meta tier list. They have Desperado as the clear top 1 deck. In terms of their tournaments, it is the most highly represented decks. It places in the top 4 all the time. It placed the top 2 in that battle damage step tournament, and then it placed second in the weekly 86. Tier 2's a very crowded scene, and it got even more crowded. Triamids were dropped down to Tier 2, and they have the reason that people are siding in Closed Forest. Closed Forest is a field spell that helps beasts, and then they can't activate your opponent can't activate field spells, so it's a tech card. Who cares if you're not running beasts? You lock out their field spells. This card actually hurt a lot of other decks. And Vendreads have been promoted to Tier 2. So, yeah, no surprises here. It is the winner of the mini box. The reason why you would even buy the mini box, I guess, unless you want to play other zombie cards, but it is in Tier 2. And then 6 Samurais are also here. 6 Samurais were immediately dropped to 3 for the nerf, and now they're back in Tier 2. I guess they're not that bad. I want to see the new decks. But anyways, other Tier 2 decks include old holdouts, Ancient Gears, Blue Eyes, Cyberdarks, and Spellbooks. Tier 3, Magnet Warriors and Subterrors are still around, and Crystrons have been moved up. They've been seeing more play. The new deck that... I forgot who played it, but there was a 30-card Crystron deck with Sea Stealth that showed up in the World Championships. Either the first place or second place guy got it, played it. But people are finding ways to play Crystrons, and that's really good for synchro summoning. And Metaphyz have been dropped out of this tier list. I personally am fine with this. It's just a deck that I don't like playing against because they do too many things. But I'm sure it's still in the ladder, so that's what applies to me. I don't play tournaments, and yeah, they're not gone for good just because they're removed from this tier list. But hopefully, we see less of them in things. All right, so we're gonna move on to the main topic of the week: ranked duels revamp. And I kind of framed the question of the week about this, but it's more of a question of paranoia. I asked, will Konami actually give us more gems with the ranked duels revamp? So we don't really know how many gems we're getting it. We'll go into that later, but it's possible that they give us more, they give us less, or they give us the same amount. 52% of people are optimistic. Konami are going to give us more gems with the ranked duels revamp. 29% said no. They're the pessimists. Konami's giving us fewer gems from the ranked duels revamp. And 19% said the same amount. It could very well be the same amount, so we don't really know what's going to happen. But we will know in a few days. That's because this ranked season is ending. I think it's ending Monday night, so the 26th would be the start of the new season. 27th. And we're going to see what we're going to get from this ranked duels revamp. But what we know for now, this is a good thing. No more demotions. Players will no longer be demoted for losing, except for Legend 2 and 3. I remember when they didn't demote you from the 1 ranks, the Legend 1, the Plat 1, Gold 1 ranks. They say duel at your heart's content, but this is actually duel at your heart's content. You play whatever the hell you want. You could just play whatever the hell you want. And I think this would put more meme decks. People will trot out their meme decks until they feel like that they can't. They're tired of losing, I guess. But also, it allows those tier 4 decks to creep in. I think it's a good thing in terms of deck diversity. And the decks that are really OP and meta, they're gonna move on. They're gonna move on and hit King of Games faster than normal. You don't lose those. You don't get stumbled by your demotions. So, in a way, this kind of devalues King of Games more. King of Games never really mattered much for people who are competitive. That's why they join the tournament and whatnot. For me, it never really mattered either. I hit King of Games like 6 or 7 times, so I don't really need to prove anything, but it's just if I wanted to do it, if I wanted to play the games, to do it. So, again, to me, it didn't really matter, but it is more gems, so that is a motivation to hit King of Games. You get those 200 extra gems, or 100 gems for doing it, so overall, I can't see how anyone can complain about no more demotions. This is, an awesome thing. As much crap as I give Konami, this is a very good thing, and it's more encouragement to play ranked duels when there's nothing going on in the game, and it's a way for you to get your ranked rewards. We don't know what the ranked rewards will be, but it will increase your play total pretty much because you don't get demoted for losing. Of course, that Legend 2 and 3, you still need to do that win streak thing, so we'll see how that changes. New ranks are being added, so new ranks including rank 6 and 7, so Bronze 6 and 7, Silver 6 and 7, Gold 6 and 7, Plat 6 and 7. Legend will still be at 1, 2, 3, it seems. And this is, again, if they give us rewards for moving up each level, like a gem reward for each level, that would be pretty sweet. It's just more. It allows you. It's more duels, I guess. That's one thing, but it shouldn't be much for someone who's experienced enough to move up to 6 and 7 and move up to the next rank. Players will be demoted 7 ranks when a new season begins. This is pretty much standard. Back then it was 5, so whatever rank you were, you just moved down 5. 7, same thing. So there's not much to add about that. Overall, adding extra levels, so 6 and 7 for those 4 levels. It doesn't really affect me. Usually I do have to get through plat. Let's say so right now I'm King of Games, so if I lose 7 ranks, I will be in plat 4 or so, 4 or 3, I don't know, but yeah, plat 4, so that's really just getting through 4 ranks, and I'm in Legend, and I'm okay already, so I guess it's more motivation to not be in Legend 1. Sometimes I just end the season in Legend 1 and I'm whatever, but well, I'm still in plat, so I guess it doesn't really matter. Overall, this doesn't really affect me, but it is more gems for people who start out lower. And then the big if, the big question mark. Cumulative victory rewards updated. Players will get gems every time they win a duel up until their 50th win. This is the big what? Because how many gems are we getting each time we win? It could be 1, so that's 50 gems. That's a pack for the first 50 wins. Hope it's more than 1. So, yeah, this is the big if. Card tickets will be given out for every 5th and 10th win. So, kind of redundant. They say 5th and 10th because every 10th is a 5th, but they mean, every 5, 10, 15, 20. So, that changes what we have now. Right now we have the SR system, 3 SRs, 30, 60, 120. And then the Rs and Ns, we get 3 each season, so that's about the same. There will be changes to rewards such as UR and SR tickets. Like I mentioned, SR tickets we have 3, and UR we only have 1, I think. 1 out of 100. So, we'll see what they change. That's very exciting news. So, when they actually release how many gems we're getting, we'll find out in a few days. The current ranked reward system, let's take a look. In the first 50 wins, you get 200 gems. So, the breakpoint goes, you get 50 gems at win 1, 5, 15, and 35. So, So right now, if you do the math, they're going to give us the same amount of gems if you get 4 gems per win. So 4 times 50 is 200, so that's 200 gems for the first 50 wins. You also get another 100 on your way to 120. I use 120 as a breakpoint because that's when you get your 3rd SR ticket. So you get 50 gems at 65 and 80. So 300 gems. Yeah, so it depends what that gem amount is every time you win a duel in 50. So it's very possible they give us less. It's very possible they give us the same. It's very possible they give us more. We don't know. So there's no way to know right now. So that's all I have to say about it. Ranked duels revamp. They might not give us more gems, but no demotions is definitely a good thing. We get 1 new card this week, and typically I like talking about new cards, but we only have 1, and it's not that good. This is from the card trader. I think the card trader should release more stuff, but at the same time, I have not seen this card in the card trader yet, so I have 0 copies of this card. That is Aztekipede, the Worm Warrior, level 4, 1900, 400 insect. Cannot be normal summoned or set. Must be special summoned by banishing an insect from your graveyard. Cannot be special summoned by other ways. If this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, send the top card of their deck to the graveyard. If this card seems familiar, it is because there is a card called Doomdozer. I think it's an SR in a box somewhere. The Insect Rampage of the Forest box, which had Sylvans in it, but it was banished 2 for 2800 and has the same mill ability. It's a free summon, but this beatdown insect thing doesn't really work. I think the last beatdown insect thing was Insectrons, I think they were called. But the mill ability, if you're playing a mill thing, you might as well be playing Wormworm decks, so this doesn't really fit. Well, maybe it could fit, but in Wormworm decks, you're trying to resurrect the Wormworm, so you don't really want to banish it from the graveyard, so this card doesn't really fit anywhere. It's really forgettable. But then again, I have nothing to get I have too many SR tickets. I might as well go get this card. So, you always get cards to collect them or in case they become good. I really don't see this card being good, but maybe something comes down the line. While these are not new cards, we are getting 3 cards we are getting extra copies of. From Duel Quest, we're getting our second copy of Zombie World. And Zombie World is a card that we get 1 copy from Bones, so this is officially number 2. Field spell. All monsters on the field and graveyards become zombies. Neither player contributes summon monsters except for zombies. So, really what this does is your opponent's not going to be tribute summoning in this meta anyway, so that's irrelevant. But it prevents them from bringing back certain things if they are a certain type. So that is one. That's a limited graveyard lockdown, but it's not. It's not an exceptional ability. But what this basically does, it helps your Plague Spreader zombies. So in the last mini box, Plague Spreader zombie had some synchro monsters. So there was the Red Eyes. Well, the Red Eyes Necro Dragon doesn't need Plague Spreader, but it takes advantage of your opponent's graveyard being zombies, and that's what Zombie World does. So it's good for Red Eyes Necro. And then the other cards with the Plague Spreader zombie, I think that works with them too. So it does. That deck's not going to be, Red Eyes Necro is not going to be a tiered deck. I don't think so, but they do have a ton of tools. And getting a second copy of Zombie World is great. It makes that deck be a fun deck you could steal some wins off, but there's no way to tutor this spell. So you need, if only you had 3, that would help your chances, but then you might have to run, Planet Pathfinder or something, but there has to be a better way to play the spell. Zombies had that trap card, the Empire Takeover, which lets you summon the spell straight from the deck. A way to get the field in your hand from the deck. There is no way to do that right now with zombies. So that's what's holding it back, but I am happy we are getting a second copy of Zombie World. Number 3 might be around the corner if we don't get a tutor for the field spell. We are also getting 3rd copies of cards from the Card Flipper campaign. Odeon's card, Magic Planter. Send 1 continuous trap card you control to the graveyard. Draw 2 cards. This is a card that Deck Tech liked a lot. And we're getting our 3rd copy. It's good for decks that use trap cards that stay on the field. So one notorious example is Powerful Rebirth. That card often stays on the field. And, it's a way to draw cards, but I think it's specifically for trap monster decks. You could send away your, whatever, Iki Soul or Embodiment, and draw 2 cards. Trap monster decks they lose when you exhaust them with their hand and their trap cards, so this is a way for them to use it, but I don't see it being a fit in any of our meta decks nowadays. A second card that we're getting a 3rd copy of is Bandit Keith's Time Machine. Trap card: when a monster is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, special summon that monster on the field, on the same field it was on, in the same battle position it was when destroyed. So this is a card I slotted in my deck really early on, and it never worked because it is situational. It has to be the only monster destroyed in that battle, so it's like a 1-to-1 situation, and then you get this card back. In a full board, you have 2 monsters on the board. Typically, you want to put a lot of monsters on the board, obviously. It's not going to work. It has to be destroyed in battle and in the graveyard, and it comes back in the same ability, in the same mode, I mean. But what this card has is upside. A lot of resurrection cards bring a monster back, and then it dies the end of the battle phase. One example is the Six Samurai card, a Return of the Six Samurai, so that card is destroyed at the end. Powerful Rebirth only works for level 4 or lower. Birthright is normal monsters only. Silver's Cry is only the Blue Eyes cards, so this is it's It's a generic resurrection with big upside because you could bring back a big monster, but it is situational. So maybe to see some play. I don't think it does because it is so situational, but you never know. It could be for some big monster that gets destroyed and you bring it back. Little things here. Update to version 3.10.0. Number limit added. Records will go up to 99,999,999. So these are very pointless things like maximum battle damage inflicted and life points gained in a duel, like things to if you're bored and you're trying to break the game or something. So also more space in the UI to play the great game. Apparently the upper part of the screen froze out. I typically play on my computer. I don't really play much PvP on the phone. This didn't really affect me. So oh well, it's for the betterment of people who play on their phone, I guess. Now I have a podcast milestone. I rarely check the stats for, this podcast. I've been doing it a year and a half, 2 years and a half, and we hit 10,000 downloads. Feed burner is what I use for metrics. We've been growing slowly as podcast, and but the good thing is the podcast is still growing. So thank you for all the listeners out there who have stayed with this podcast, with the changes we've had so far, but thank you for sticking around with me and Doug Dimmadule. 10,000 downloads, that's definitely an achievement. We passed it this week, so I don't know where we are now, maybe 10,100, but thank you very much for listening and all the people who continue to listen to past episodes, present and future. So big shout out to everyone. And let me know. I'm always available online. I don't check the email too much, but you can email me at theduelassessment@gmail.com. Let me know on the website. Better yet, Twitter, duel_assessment, or me at Green Ranger CCG. Alright. So, now it's time for Doug Dimmadule, his casual deck of the week. And there is an emphasis on casual this week. This is not a farming deck or any deck you should use on the ladder, but it is Crystal Beasts. And if you ever really wanted to get that Rainbow Over Dragon out, this is the deck for you. And it also has Haman, Lord of Striking Thunder. This is a new card we got from the Chronicles GX last time, so check out Doug Dimmadule right now.
Hey there, this is Doug Dimmadule with Doug's Casual Deck of the Week. This week's deck, since everybody's getting all hyped up about zombies and Vendreads and all that stuff, we're going to go a complete 180 and jump right into a Crystal Beast deck. Yeah, that's right. This is not competitive whatsoever, but my god, this thing is just fun to play. Now, the skill that you're going to have to use is Transcendent Crystals. Now, if you're not familiar with Transcendent Crystals, this is a skill from Jesse Anderson. So, it's really the driver behind this deck. It's really the skill that makes this deck work in a way that's more efficient. Because ultimately, you're trying to get your Rainbow Dragon play going, get Rainbow Dragon out there, and potentially get Rainbow Over Dragon onto the field. So just a little bit about Transcendent Crystals, at least what that does. I'm going to pull it up here so I can get the official explanation. You send 1 to 3 cards from your hand to the graveyard. Then choose the same number of Crystal Beast monsters from your deck as the number of cards you sent from your hand to the graveyard, and place it or them in your spell and trap zone as continuous spell cards. Now this skill can only be used once per turn and twice per duel. So why is this skill so important? Because ultimately you want one of each of your Crystal Beast monsters to end up in the graveyard or in your spell and trap card zone. So using this skill over the course of 2 turns should get you pretty far along with where you're trying to go. but you want to kind of move through your deck. That's why running copies of Rare Value ends up working. But ultimately, the card Rainbow Gravity, it's a rare trap card. You could get quite a few copies of this. I think it's dropped from dueling the Legendary Duelist. This is a trap where if you have 7 Crystal Beast cards with different names on the field or in your graveyard, you could special summon 1 Rainbow Dragon or Rainbow Dark Dragon from your deck or graveyard, ignoring the summoning conditions. So even if you're shuffling through your deck and one of your Rainbow Dragons ends up in the graveyard, don't worry. As long as you have Rainbow Gravity, it works out very nicely. You're still able to play it onto the field. So what's the game changer as far as this deck goes? And it's Hammond, Lord of Striking Thunder. This was the drop from one of the recent free-to-play events. This is a Thunder, kind of one of those God cards. It's got 4,000 attack, 4,000 defense. It cannot be normal summoned or set, and must be special summoned from your hand by sending 3 face-up continuous spell cards you control to the graveyard, and cannot be special summoned by other ways. If this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent. While this card is in face-up defense position, monsters your opponent's controls cannot target monsters for attacks except this one. So it's a really good card if you're lucky enough to have it in your hand while you're loading up your spell and trap zone, possibly using the skill Transcendent Crystals. You can make this a pretty good good turn 1 or turn 2 play, having Hammond, Lord of Striking Thunder, in your hand and loading up your spell and trap zone with your Crystal Beast monsters. They're considered continuous spell cards. So ultimately, what's your goal? Well, you're going to have basically 1 copy of Crystal Beast Ruby Carbuncle. I don't think that's how you pronounce it, but whatever. You get the 1 copy of Crystal Beast Amethyst Cat, 1 copy of Crystal Beast Cobalt Eagle, 1 copy of Crystal Beast Emerald Tortoise, 2 copies of Crystal Beast Topaz Tiger, since it's kind of formidable, 2 copies of Crystal Beast Amber Mammoth, and 3 copies of Crystal Beast Sapphire Pegasus. Really, you want Sapphire Pegasus on there because it allows you to search out for any other Crystal Beast monster and put into the Spell or Trap card zone. So you could search out your Emerald Tortoise, your Cobalt Eagle, whichever you run a 1 of in your deck, and get it onto the field. Hopefully your other cards are either in the graveyard or on the field, and ultimately you get into your Rainbow Dragon play. So really, this deck is a lot of fun. It's one that I like to use every so often when when dealing with just P to E or PvE events where you're just going up against computers, or if you're going up against other legendary duelists. Not really something you want to play on the ladder, although the 1 or 2 times I ran into this type of deck build on the ladder, it was just a lot of fun to see, so I really enjoyed it. So as far as the formidable monster cards, Crystal Beast Sapphire Pegasus is one of them. Because it's got 1800 attack, for level 4, that's not terrible. I also run my 2 copies of Crystal Beast Amber Mammoth. It's got the 4 stars levels, or it's got 1700 attack, 1600 defense. But when another face-up Crystal Beast monster you control is targeted for attack, you can make this card the attack target instead. So if you're trying to keep another one of your Crystal Beasts on the field, you could always change the attack to Amber Mammoth. That would be pretty good. But the one effect that all these Crystal Beast monsters have is when they're destroyed by battle, you're able to basically transfer it to the Spell or Trap card zone. So I think I'll read the second part. If this face-up card is destroyed while it is in a monster card zone, you can place it face-up in your Spell and Trap card zone as a continuous spell card instead of sending it to the graveyard. So sometimes you're going to want some of these monsters to end up in the graveyard, especially if you pull Rainbow Gravity, because you really don't need to have everything loaded up in your Spell and Trap card zone. Also, my rule of thumb is to keep at least one of your Spell and Trap card zones open in case you pull a copy of Rare Value. I run 3 copies of this. If there are 2 or more face-up Crystal Beast cards in your Spell and Trap card zone, your opponent chooses 1 Crystal Beast card in your Spell and Trap zone and sends it to the graveyard. Then you draw 2 cards. This allows you to cycle through your deck quicker and hopefully pull a copy of Rainbow Dragon or Hammond Lord of Striking Thunder. So what's so special about Rainbow Over Dragon? This is a really, really good card. As long as you have Rainbow Dragon on the field, you can effectively play Over Dragon immediately. So its requirement is 7 Crystal Beast monsters. It must either be fusion summoned or special summoned by attributing 1 level 10 ultimate crystal monster, in which case you do not use polymerization. Once per turn, you can banish 1 Crystal Beast monster from your graveyard. This card gains attack equal to the banished monsters until the end of the turn. Also a quick effect, and this is where this card is really good. You can tribute this Fusion Summon card and shuffle all cards on the field into the deck. So this is one way around a lot of those floating decks where maybe you'll have that Dolphin card that likes to stay on the field. You're able to just shuffle, just basically reset the entire board. If your opponent sets their field or sets their board in a way that they want, sucks for them because you can just shuffle everything back into the deck. So that's why Rainbow Overdragon is just a really powerful card, especially when people are building more boards now than just doing hand traps and doing one card, play per turn. So this is just a really good way to blow up the board without actually destroying monsters. So anyway, my assessment of this deck is that it's just a lot of fun from a casual perspective. Not something you're going to want to use on the ladder, but if you do, you're not going to see too many wins. But if you do end up winning a few PvP duels, it's pretty satisfying because this is a really fun themed deck. So anyway, that's it for this week's casual deck. I will see you next week. Take care.
Alright, thanks Doug, and you can check out Doug Dimmadule with a new deck every week on this podcast. Check out his Twitter page, Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck Talk. One thing that I neglected to mention that I did not put in the show notes is a new card. So, we got those special packs from the prediction campaign. I personally got 6. I don't know how many everyone else got, but I predicted the winner, Kobayashi, so I got 6. And we got this new card, Sonic Chick. It's not a card that everyone has, because you have to open those packs and you could get random things, like the freaky Flame Swordsman who has 6 fingers, and he's splitting his fingers, and it's horrible card art. But anyways, you can check out that picture on Duel Assessment's Twitter page. There's a Sonic Chick, and then there's this freaky 6-fingered Flame Swordsman. But anyways, Sonic Chick is a card they gave out in Japan at a duelist festival, so I luckily got a copy here. But anyways, Sonic Chick is level 1, 300 winged beast, cannot be destroyed by battle of a monster that has 1900 or more attack. If this seems familiar, it is, because it's the same ability as the obnoxious Celtic Guardian, and in all forms, it's a worse version because it can't hit for 1400 like the obnoxious Celtic Guardian. But it's nice to get a new card. That was just a event exclusive card from Japan, so that is. Yeah, we didn't get one new card this week. We got 2 new cards this week. So let's move on to the Duel School, what I intended to talk about. This is about me getting King of Games with Kobayashi's 6 Samurai deck. So, this is me sending out 6 Sams. They're going to get nerfed soon. And this is a free-to-play version of Kobayashi's 6 Sam deck. It's not really free-to-play. I did spend my investment of gems or money into getting 6 Sams, but I am short a card, and it is the eternal plight of me having 2 Kizin. Of course, you want 3 Kizin when you play 6 Sams. Every deck that hits King of Games usually has one, but I was able to sneak in with just 2, and to substitute it, I have Grandmaster of the 6 Samurai. So it's a card, it's a level 5, first of all. It doesn't really meld with the Synchro Summon because I don't have any level 6 Synchro Summons for Fuma, but having that extra body on the board actually pays huge dividends in terms of letting your Anishi bounce stuff. Anishi needs another monster on the board, so it does that, and it also provides protection to 6 Samurai Shien. When he gets destroyed on the board, you could destroy Grandmaster instead. So there's a lot of uses for it. It boosts the attack of Kizin and also Anishi as well. So having that extra special summon body is why I had Grandmaster in. Aside from that one card, the deck is exactly the same as Kobayashi's deck, and notably, it's not Light and Dark. Light and Dark was a type of 6-Sam deck that saw a ton of play. It probably was more common than Beat Down or Tie That Binds, but this is Tie That Binds 6-Sams. Kobayashi had 3 Kizun. I have 1 Grandmaster, 2 Kizun. Of course, you need Kizun. Kizun allows a lot of play. Special summon it when you have another 6-Sam. Helps your synchro play. You have Fuma. You play Kizun. That helps build up your counters. It lets Anishi make a bounce play. It itself, Kizun himself, gains more attack when there's 2 other monsters on the board. Helps Anishi as well in that regard. To Anishi. Anishi is the card that's getting nerfed. It's a bit OP. Notably, you have to have another monster on the board when you do the bounce effect. So there are combos to help that in this deck. 1, Kizaru. Kizaru is a card that was often cut out of Light and Dark because he is Earth attribute. But this deck, Kizaru is obviously in there for his card advantage. When you special summon him, you get a card. You draw a card. I mean, you tutor any 6-Sam monster of a different attribute. But what he does is he also brings the most attack. And that's when you're playing Tie That Binds, that's what's useful. Having that more attack, like 100 or 200 more attack than your opponent's monsters. That's why he's there too. 3 Fuma. Fuma is the core of the deck. Your tuner, it's fine being defense. It adds counters to United and Dojo when you special summon a monster. It's a secret, so it works very well with the next card. 1 copy of Legendary Secret. Legendary Secret is not a card you want to start out with, but if you have Fuma, there you have your Synchro Summon, so you just cheat it out. I don't think I ever used it for attacking, really. Maybe in 1 game, there's a desperation play where you attack with Fuma, you banish something in the graveyard, and you have enough lethal, but I only run 1 copy here. Typically, decks are going to run a lot more of it because Anishi's gone, there's room for it, but it was tempting to put more of this card in, but again, I just copied this deck list, so what do I know? 3 copies of 6 Samurai United. This is the big discussion. This is the big change, I think. A lot of decks just run 2, or some even run 1. So, you win games outright when you draw a ton, and you only need 2 counters. Fuma and Kizun and Legendary Secret, and then you Synchro Summon, and then that's it. That you have enough cards to draw. Those 3 copies are very important. I'm pretty sure there are games where I've bluffed and I just was dead in the water and I set this card face down and it prevented me from losing right away. So that's another thing you could do with 6 Samurai United. And that's also a card that you play in the mirror to bait your opponent. You want to waste this card if your opponent already has a Shin on the board. They should be smart enough to know you negate Dojo, you don't negate this card, but that's a bit of a skill thing in the mirror about what sequencing of spells to play in a turn or back row for that matter. 2 copies of World Legacy Clash. This is a card that often saw 3. Most decks run 3 of this card, most 6 Sam's decks. And, it not only does it repel, it stops that opponent's attack outright, and it reduces their attack. So, it's a permanent reduction loss. Of course, in the mirror, you have to do some tricky things with this. Sometimes you World Legacy Clash the guy that was World Legacy Clash, so you could bring its monster. You could banish it and replenish his attack that was subtracted prior. And also, World Legacy Clash, a note I want to say, it's a quick play, so quick plays are often misplayed when you set it and then you attack. Sometimes you really want to use it during the battle phase, and that's when you quick play it from the hand. So that's a big. This applies to Econ for sure, or Cosmic Cyclone. Well, Cosmic Cyclone is a little different, but in the battle phase, Econ or World Legacy Clash could be a lot better when played in the hand. 2 dojos, of course. This is part of the nerf with Anishi. A lot of people are saying there's going to be a 1-to-1 thing, but I really do think you need 2 dojos, but right now the 2 dojos are fine. You get your level 4 out, and then you can cheat out Fuma, and that's it. There was the bigger play of cheating out a level 4, or you can cheat out maybe Legendary, not Legendary Secret, Grandmaster of 5 counters on, but I don't think I even did that before. 2 Duel Wields. Duel Wield is another trap card, kind of like World Legacy Clash where they ran 3 of it. This one runs 2. Of course, your monster has to be in attack mode. You only have to have 1. I think I won my King of Games deck, my King of Games game, based on a situation where they destroyed my things, and then I World Legacy Clashed them because I had that one monster on the board. And it's everyone playing against 6 Sams knows they have World Legacy Clash. It's a card you have to play around. There's no other way to describe it. You know it's there. You know you want to negate it. You want to Cosmic Cyclone it, but there are ways to do it, I guess. Like your Fuma gets destroyed and you get your monster out, and then you turn your on toggle on, and then you just bounce them before they could do anything. I think I did that a few times. So it's a card you have to have your on toggle on. Sometimes you special summon a guy, and then you really want to use this card right now. And then I think the card that really makes the deck is Return of the 6 Samurai. There's one copy of this card. It's a card that special summons your 6 Samurai monster from the graveyard, and then it gets destroyed right away. At the end of the turn. It's synergy with Kizaru. Kizaru gets that special summon off. It helps you bring a Fuma back. It helps bring Anishi back. It even brings the Synchro back too, I think. So, and then you have combo plays. You could just set up a dual wield, and you use this, and then you dual wield your opponent's cards away, and then you could attack them for lethal. You could bring back a monster, and then World Legacy Clash it away to bring it back permanently. Often this card is just used for a synchro summon, but there are very creative ways you could use this card. I talked about how Time Machine is a very upside card. This is a very upside card too, and it's really what makes the deck what it is, I think. In terms of the extra deck, I'll talk about these cards. One copy of, I forget what this card is even called, the Contact Fusion. Rihan. So Rihan, you have to have 3 monsters with different attributes on the board, and you contact summon, contact fuse. So let's see what we got here. Grandmaster's an Earth, Kizen's an Earth, Kizaru's an Earth, Anishi's Light, Fuma's Wind, Legendary Secret's Dark, Shin is Dark too. So often you just have 2 Earth monsters and then you're kind of screwed, but typically this isn't hard to do at all. And Rihan, I did use him a few times. He's here for a reason. He's not useless. There are decks where you definitely want to banish it. You know what's coming, and you banish them. So yeah, very good card. It helps play around those graveyard protections specifically. 2 copies of Shi-En the Synchro. This is the card that makes the deck, obviously. People were saying this card should have been nerfed, but putting it on Limitless, it just kills the deck completely. You could limit to 1. I don't think it really matters. Once you have 2, you pretty much win the game, but typically you are only going to play 1 Shi-En anyways. I run Armadides, and Armadides typically only has 1 use, and that's against Yubel decks. When you play us against a Yubel deck, they pretty much lose, because they always set that Fire Avatar down or whatever. If they get the Terror Incarnated out on the board right away, then Armadides has to sit around for a bit, but against Fire Avatar or Yaksha, you pretty much win the duel. So Armadides is there, and again, not just Yubel. Really, when you attack something fishy going on, They have a lot of trap cards. They have Kribo. They have Temperance. This is very good against Desperado too. You destroy their machine card and no build. The Desperado doesn't come out of the deck. So I take that back. Armades is also good against Desperado. I have one copy of Mistworm. I don't think I ever even played this card, so yeah. Mistworm, you bounce 2 cards your opponent has, so it's a level 9 synchro, so it's pretty easy to do with these cards. 2 4s and a 1. It's pretty much like playing Rihan. And I have one copy of X-Saber Wayne. Again, I copied this deck directly from Kobayashi. I don't think I played X-Saber Wayne once, but he is there for kind of like a one-turn kill situation. You could play Kizaru. So Wayne's 2100, Kizaru's 19. 4000, you draw a card for good measure, and you win the duel. So I could see why X-Saber Wayne is in the deck. I used to run that card when I played my first 6 Samurai deck, but anyways, like I said, I copied the deck from Kobayashi, and I just made one adjustment. And really, the meta was pretty weak during this last week. I think I got King of Games like on a Monday or Tuesday, so really like a week left in the ranked duels ladder, and there was very little resistance. So of course there were a lot of 6 Samurai mirrors, but playing so much 6 Samurais, I know what to expect. Overall, I am sending out 6 Samurais in style. I didn't hate the deck. You're kind of forced to like the decks you play more. And I didn't hate 6 Samurai a ton, but I did see it a bit too much, so I understand the frustration there. But, like I've mentioned this point before, I think the meta was oversaturated with structure decks. Every single top tier deck was a structure deck. And I'm happy to see boxes be worth something. 6 Samurais was a deck that built on several different boxes. You had to build it with different cards from different collections. Crystron, for example, Crystron and Vendreds, I'm happy they're around because it gives incentive to buy that last mini box. But they're more free-to-play friendly because they're kind of restricted to one area. 6 Samurai kind of was the collector's fancy because you got cards from different boxes and you bought different boxes. So I really think there's a fun aspect to collecting your cards, not just buying your structure deck and being OP. And I'm happy that this deck was around for that. And I'm happy that I was able to hit King of Games with it and finally just send it off. Now I could focus on some other deck to play. So that is all I have to say in the Duel School. Upcoming news. Carly Carmine's coming. So she's the new legendary duelist. August 22nd, 27th, so that's kind of the start of the new season. When we get the news of this ranked duel revamp, we will get Carly Carmine. We might have to wait a few days. These events kind of make you wait, so maybe we'll get her at the end of the month. The end of the week, but by the next podcast, we should have her new cards and her new skills and everything, so pretty cool there. Late August, Mission Circuit. This is the event that everyone wanted permanently. And it's coming back this month, so Necroid Synchro is a new card we're getting. And the Kaiba Cup as well, September 5th. So it's kind of like a week buffer. Let's see. Like a week and a half where we have just straight up ranked duels and no Kaiba Cup. So maybe you could focus on your new ranked duels revamp and getting King of Games there. So I already mentioned the wrap up. You listen to this podcast anywhere and just search the duel assessment. And yeah, that's all I have to say. Contact me anytime. Check out the notes. The full notes are on the duelassessment.wordpress.com. Alright, so that is it for this week. Thank you very much for listening. I will see you next time.